Have you ever looked at your lemon tree and felt an overwhelming sense of disappointment? You bought it dreaming of making fresh, homemade lemonade, garnishing your favorite dishes, and enjoying that intoxicating citrus blossom scent right on your porch. But instead, you are staring down a sad, stunted tree. The leaves are turning a sickly yellow, the new growth looks incredibly weak, and any blossom that manages to appear just drops straight to the ground before it can ever set fruit. You might be thinking that growing lemons is just entirely too complicated, or simply that you lack the green thumb required to keep a citrus tree alive. Well, I am here to tell you, do not throw that tree away just yet. Before you give up on it, you need to hear what I'm going to share today. I am going to reveal the absolute secret sauce to lemon tree care. We are going to transform that struggling, yellowing, stubborn plant into a heavy-yielding, fruit-producing machine that is absolutely thriving. I am going to guide you through using an organic do-it-yourself kitchen hack that will save you a ton of money on expensive chemical fertilizers. And if you stick with me until the very end, I'm going to share a pro tip that is an absolute game changer. A magic bullet secret that forces even the most stubborn, leafy green lemon trees to finally burst into bloom and load up with fruit. This is the complete, definitive guide to growing million-dollar lemons right in your own backyard. Let us diagnose exactly why your lemon tree is currently stalled out every single day. I hear folks complaining that their tree seems frozen in time. It is not growing. It is not dying. It is just stuck. This almost always comes down to three invisible culprits: microscopic pests suffocating the foliage, a severe lack of bioavailable nutrients targeted right at the blooming phase, and exhausted, compacted soil. When you are growing in containers, these issues are magnified tenfold because potting soil loses its vitality incredibly fast. But we are going to fix all of that right now with a two-step rescue mission. Step 1. The cleanse. Before we can even think about feeding the tree, we have to make sure it can actually breathe. Citrus trees are notorious magnets for pests that you often cannot see with the naked eye. We are talking about microscopic fungal spores, tiny aphids, scale insects that look like harmless little bumps on the bark, and spider mites that spin nearly invisible webs. These invaders are literal energy vampires, sucking the life out of your plant. To combat this, we are not running to the garden center to buy toxic synthetic pesticides, neem oil, or horticultural oils. Instead, we are going to whip up an incredibly effective, completely organic rescue solution right from your kitchen cabinets. The formula: take 1 quart of room temperature water and mix it with exactly 1 tablespoon of pure baking soda, along with about 1/2 teaspoon of a gentle, biodegradable liquid dish soap. Why is this so effective? Baking soda acts as a strong alkaline agent. When you spray it onto the leaves, it slightly alters the potential hydrogen level on the foliage surface, creating an environment where fungal spores like powdery mildew and sooty mold simply cannot germinate or survive. The dish soap is equally important. It acts as a surfactant. Water has high surface tension, meaning if you just spray plain water, it beads up and rolls right off the waxy cuticle of the lemon leaf. The soap breaks that surface tension, allowing the baking soda solution to spread into a thin, even film over the entire leaf, suffocating soft-bodied pests and coating those fungal spores. You will put this mixture into a spray bottle and coat the entire tree, paying special attention to the undersides of the leaves, because that is where pests love to hide. You should only apply this treatment in the late afternoon or early evening after the sun has set or moved off the plant. If you spray this solution in the middle of the day, the harsh sunlight will hit those soapy water droplets, acting like thousands of tiny magnifying glasses, and it will scorch your leaves with irreparable sunburn. Doing this evening cleanse opens up the microscopic pores on the leaves, called stomata, allowing the plant to breathe freely and preparing it for the massive influx of nutrition we are about to provide. Step 2. Liquid gold. If you want your tree to push out vibrant new growth and produce giant, incredibly juicy lemons, Standard nitrogen fertilizers just are not going to cut it. At the exact moment of flowering and fruit set, your lemon tree needs a massive spike in potassium and calcium. Potassium is the heavy lifter for fruit development. It regulates the opening and closing of the stomata, controls water movement throughout the plant tissues, and is directly responsible for moving sugars into the developing fruit to make it swell up and get sweet. Calcium, on the other hand, is the structural building block for plant cell walls. If there is not enough calcium, the new shoots will be deformed and your young lemons will literally collapse inward, a condition very similar to blossom end rot in tomatoes. Now, you could go out and spend a fortune on specialized bloom boosters, but we are going to use the ultimate organic do-it-yourself kitchen hack instead. We are going to extract these exact nutrients from banana peels and eggshells. But do not just toss raw banana peels and whole eggshells onto the soil. That is a massive rookie mistake. Raw organic matter takes months, sometimes even a full year, to break down. Even worse, as soil microbes work to decompose those raw peels, they actually steal the available nitrogen in the soil to fuel their digestion process, which will temporarily starve your lemon tree and turn its leaves yellow. We do not have months to wait. We need a fast-absorbing concentrate. Here is exactly how you do it. First, grab about half a dozen eggshells, wash them out, let them dry completely, and then grind them up in a blender or coffee grinder until they become a fine, almost invisible powder. By pulverizing the eggshells, you are exponentially increasing their surface area, allowing the calcium carbonate to become readily available to the soil ecosystem much faster. Next, take the peels of 4 or 5 ripe bananas and boil them in about 1 quart of water for 15 to 20 minutes. Why do we boil them? Heat acts as a catalyst. The boiling process violently breaks down the tough cell walls of the banana peels, rapidly extracting the water-soluble potassium and phosphorus directly into the liquid. Once that nutrient-dense banana tea has cooled completely to room temperature, scoop out the solid peels and mix your finely ground eggshell powder straight into the liquid. You have just created literal liquid gold for your citrus tree. Drench the root zone of your lemon tree with this mixture once every 2 weeks during the active growing season. Because the nutrients are already broken down into a liquid emulsion, the tiny feeder roots can absorb them immediately through simple osmosis. In just a few days, you will see a spectacular transformation. The tree will respond by pushing out incredibly intense, vibrant green shoots. It is like injecting a dose of pure, raw energy straight into the heart of an exhausted plant. Now that we have rescued your tree, we need to talk about the foundational rules of everyday care. Number 1, water and sun. The first major hurdle where I see so many folks stumbling is watering. More indoor and patio lemon trees are killed by overwatering than by any pest or disease combined. Lemon trees absolutely hate having soggy roots. If the roots are soaking in a swamp of waterlogged soil, they will literally suffocate from a lack of oxygen, leading to a deadly condition called root rot. The American standard for watering citrus is a technique called deep watering. We do not want to give the plant a tiny sip of water every single day. That encourages a shallow, weak root system. Instead, you want to water deeply and infrequently. The finger test. Before you even think about picking up that watering can, you need to do the finger test. Stick your index finger straight down into the soil, exactly 2 inches deep. If you feel any moisture at all at that depth, walk away. Wait another day or 2. Only when the top 2 inches of soil feel completely dry to the touch should you water. And when you do water, soak that pot thoroughly until water flows freely out of the drainage holes at the bottom. This deep soaking action physically flushes accumulated fertilizer salts out of the soil profile and forces the roots to grow downward, creating a robust, drought-tolerant tree. Just as crucial as water is sunlight, the lemon tree is the undisputed king of the sun. To power the intense metabolic demands of producing heavy, juicy fruit, your tree needs a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of direct, unobstructed sunlight every single day. Sunlight is the fuel that allows the tree to convert carbon dioxide and water into the complex sugars that give your lemons their incredible flavor. If you place your tree in a shady, north-facing corner of the yard, the fruit will be small, bitter, and incredibly dry. And the branches will grow weak and leggy as they stretch desperately looking for light. Move that tree to the brightest, sunniest south-facing spot you have, and watch the magic happen. Number 2. Pots and soil. If you are growing a dwarf lemon tree, the sweet spot for a mature plant is a massive container holding 15 to 20 gallons. This equals roughly 18 to 22 inches in diameter. You absolutely must ensure this pot has multiple large drainage holes. However, do not ever fill that beautiful 20-gallon pot with cheap, standard potting soil from the big box stores. Standard potting soils are designed to act like a sponge. They hold entirely too much moisture and will compact over time, creating an anaerobic death trap for citrus roots. Fast draining soil recipe. You need a well-draining soil mix that drains incredibly fast. I highly recommend mixing your own. Use a ratio of 1/3 high-quality potting soil, 1/3 coarse perlite to create large air pockets, and 1/3 pine bark nuggets or orchid bark. This custom blend mimics the loose, well-draining sandy soils of the subtropical regions where citrus naturally thrives. When you pour water over this mix, it should flow through in a matter of seconds, not sit pooling on the surface. Number 3. Feeding and mulch. To protect this perfect soil, you need to apply a professional mulching technique. You want to spread a 3 to 4 inch layer of organic mulch, like cedar wood chips or shredded bark, right over the surface of the soil. This thick layer of mulch acts as a heavy-duty thermal blanket. During the blistering heat of a 90-degree summer day, it insulates the shallow feeder roots and stops the sun from evaporating all your soil moisture. However, you must keep the mulch pulled back at least 2 to 3 inches away from the trunk. If wet mulch sits directly against the bark, it will cause crown rot. As for regular feeding, citrus trees are notoriously heavy feeders. Aside from our liquid gold hack during blooming, your tree needs a dedicated, slow-release fertilizer throughout the growing season. You are looking for a fertilizer formula with a nitrogen-heavy NPK ratio to support lush foliage, but it absolutely must contain essential micronutrients, specifically iron and zinc. Have you ever looked at your tree and noticed the leaves turning a pale, sickly yellow, but the veins running through the leaves stay dark green? That is a classic physiological disorder called chlorosis. It usually means your soil potential hydrogen level has crept up too high, becoming too alkaline, which acts like a padlock, locking the iron in the soil and making it impossible for the roots to absorb. Without iron, the tree cannot produce chlorophyll. To cure this, you need a citrus fertilizer containing chelated iron. Chelated iron is bound to an organic molecule that prevents it from reacting with alkaline soil, allowing the roots to slurp it right up, transforming those sad, pale leaves back to a glossy, vibrant, dark green. The real magic bullet for citrus growing success in America is understanding your specific USDA hardiness zones and choosing the exact right lemon variety for that climate. Zones 9 through 11. If you are lucky enough to live in zones 9 through 11, places like Southern California, Florida, Texas, or Arizona, you can plant your lemon tree directly in the ground outdoors year-round. For these hot, arid, or humid environments, you want to look for the Lisbon or Eureka varieties. Lisbon is an incredibly vigorous grower that thrives in blistering heat, producing those classic, bright yellow lemons with the sharp acidity you expect. It is a massive producer and surprisingly disease-resistant. Eureka is another fantastic choice because it has a unique, continuous blooming habit, meaning it will pump out flushes of fresh lemons practically year-round. Zones 4 through 8. But here is what gets me really excited. If you live anywhere in zones 4 through 8, places like the Midwest, the Northeast, or the Pacific Northwest, where winters regularly drop below freezing, you can absolutely still grow massive harvests of lemons. Your secret weapon is container growing, and your must-have variety is the improved Meyer The improved Meyer is actually a cross between a true lemon and a sweet mandarin orange. This gives it two huge advantages. The fruit is slightly sweeter, with a thin, incredibly fragrant rind that is perfect for culinary zesting. And most importantly, it is the most cold-tolerant lemon variety out there. But you have to make sure you are buying a dwarf lemon variety. When you visit a reputable nursery, ask specifically if the tree is grafted onto a dwarfing rootstock like flying dragon or trifoliate orange. This rootstock dictates the final size of the tree, keeping it at a very manageable 6 to 8 feet tall. While still producing giant, full-sized lemons, this compact size makes it incredibly easy to wheel the tree out onto your patio during those blazing summer days and roll it right back into your living room before the first frost hits. Speaking of frost, let us talk about winterizing. A mature lemon tree can survive brief temperature drops, but 28 degrees Fahrenheit is the absolute danger zone. At 28 degrees, the water inside the plant cells literally freezes, expands, and shatters the cell walls, causing catastrophic tissue death. And here is an old-school grower pro tip for those unexpectedly bitter nights before you drape the blanket. String a set of classic incandescent C9 Christmas lights through the branches. I am not talking about modern LED bulbs, which run very cool. I mean those classic glass bulbs that actually get hot to the touch. The ambient heat generated by a string of C9 bulbs underneath those frost blankets can actually raise the microclimate around your tree by 5 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is more than enough to save your harvest from a deadly freeze. Now, for those of you in zones 4 through 8 who bring your improved Meyer indoors for the winter, indoor care is a totally different ballgame. When you bring a tree from the harsh sunlight of an American summer into a dimly lit living room, the plant goes into shock. To combat this, you have to simulate the sun. A sunny south-facing window is rarely enough in the dead of winter. You need to invest in a full-spectrum LED grow light and position it roughly 12 to 18 inches above the canopy, keeping it on for 10 to 12 hours a day. Humidity. Furthermore, American homes running heating systems in the winter are incredibly dry. Lemon trees evolved in humid, subtropical environments. When the air is too dry, the leaves will turn brown at the edges, curl inward, and all your beautiful blossoms will just drop right off. We need to raise the ambient humidity around the tree to the sweet spot of 50 to 60%. You can do this by creating a pebble tray. Grab a wide, shallow plastic tray. Fill it with about 1 inch of river rock or pebbles, and set your 20-gallon pot right on top of those stones. Pour water into the tray until it sits just below the top layer of rocks. As that water slowly evaporates into the dry winter air, it creates a constant, localized column of humidity wrapping right around your tree foliage. Hand pollination. Finally, the most crucial step for indoor growers is hand pollination. Outdoors, the wind and the bees do the work of transferring pollen from flower to flower. Inside your house, there are no bees. If you do not step in, your tree will bloom magnificently, and then every single flower will fall off without producing a single lemon. When the flowers open, take a standard cotton swab or a very soft, clean makeup brush. Gently brush the center of the flower, specifically the anthers, until you see bright yellow pollen dust accumulating on the cotton. Then, simply dab that pollen directly onto the sticky pistil in the center of another open flower. Move from flower to flower, transferring the pollen, acting just like a bee. It takes exactly 2 minutes. But this simple, intentional action guarantees a massive fruit set when growing indoors. Alright, we have reached the end. And as promised, I am going to share the ultimate pro tip. A secret that the big commercial growers know all about, but the average home gardener never seems to grasp. Let us say you have followed all my advice. Your tree is sitting in a giant pot. The soil is perfect. You are feeding it. And it has the most gorgeous, lush, dark green canopy of leaves you have ever seen, but there is not a single flower, and not a single lemon. It is just a giant green bush. What is going on? You are very likely dealing with nitrogen toxicity. Your tree is just too happy. When a lemon tree has endless access to water and heavy nitrogen fertilizer, it instinctively prioritizes what is called vegetative growth, meaning it pushes out more leaves and branches at the absolute expense of reproductive growth, which is flowers and fruit. Essentially, the tree is thinking, life is way too perfect. I have endless resources. I do not need to worry about reproducing right now. To fix this, you have to play a psychological trick on the tree. We are going to use a technique called water stress. In late winter or very early spring, right before you want the tree to bloom, you are going to intentionally withhold water. I want you to let that soil dry out well past the usual 2-inch finger test. Let the tree get genuinely starved for water for a couple of weeks. You want to wait until you see the very first signs of the leaves starting to slightly wilt and lose their firmness. What does this do? It triggers an evolutionary survival mechanism deeply ingrained inside the citrus tree. The mild drought condition sends a panic signal rushing through the plant hormonal system. The tree suddenly thinks, oh no, a severe drought is coming. I might not survive this. I need to reproduce and drop seeds immediately to ensure the survival of my genetics. The moment you see that slight wilt, you step in and flood the pot with a massive, deep watering, and you hit it with a dose of our bloom-boosting, potassium-heavy liquid gold banana and eggshell tea. The relief from the drought stress, combined with the sudden rush of blooming nutrients, triggers an absolute explosion of reproductive growth. Within 1 week, that stubborn, leafy green tree will be completely covered in thousands of fragrant white blossoms, turning your barren plant into a highly productive machine almost overnight. It is a biological game changer. I hope you have been taking notes, because if you apply these techniques, from the baking soda cleanse to deep watering, setting up pebble trays indoors, and mastering the water stress trick, you are absolutely guaranteed to grow more lemons than you know what to do with. You will be handing out giant bags of lemons to all your neighbors. Now, I have a small favor to ask. I want to know who my truly dedicated gardeners are. The folks with the patience and passion to stick around for the deep science. If you watch this entire masterclass to the very end, scroll right down to the comments and type the word lemon. I am going to read through the comments, line by line, and give a heart to everyone who types that secret password. It proves you have the dedication to become a gardening expert. And if this video brought you value, if it saved your struggling citrus tree, please hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our deep dive gardening secrets. Get out there. Get your hands dirty. Take great care of those plants. And I will see you in the next video.